regardless, whatever religion you are, the Spirit of God is always with us as human beings if we allow the Spirit of love to come into our hearts. Love and forgiveness is the best trait we can have as human beings for each other. And that's what I believe. If we go forward as human beings, especially in this country, seeking love and forgiveness for things that we know is true and that we've done, to forgive somebody is good, you know. And I think those two things going forward, if our young people could use those two words of respect, love and forgiveness, it could change a lot of things in our country and make this country what I think it's supposed to be anyway, a great country. So that's my message, love and forgiveness. I was born in Rockford, Illinois at, I think, St. Anthony's Hospital in 1954. My mother's name was Margaret Meeks. She worked for the city for a while. She was at home like a maid. My father worked 2 full-time jobs, 2 8-hour shift jobs to make ends meet for us. So I have 4 brothers and 1 sister. I grew up on what they call the east side of Rockford and went to a school called P.A. Peterson. We were the only African-American kids in that specific school. About a year or 2 in that school, we moved to the west side of Rockford. Me and my 2 brothers that I remember were the only African-Americans in that school. So, you know, back in those days, you know, you had snowball fights, and so my mother would bring us to school, and you see the line of kids throwing snowballs, line of kids throwing back. But when we got out the car to start walking up there wanting to join in, they looked at us and we became the targets, me and my 3 brothers. Now, as a kid, you didn't really read anything into that. We just couldn't understand why we were the targets. As I got older, I started understanding a little bit more why people were targeting us, you know. I went through high school and I played a lot of high school sports. I played football, basketball, and track. And I have to say there were 2 men in my life that really helped me be the man I think I became. One of them was a physical education teacher named Isaac Johnson. And then the other one was Horace Box. He was my track coach, and Isaac Johnson was my basketball coach. I attribute a lot of the things that I learned on trying to be a man from my father, number 1. But those 2 guys, they really helped me coming up through high school and gave me the motivation to even want to go to college because I wanted to be like them, and that's what they had done. So I got to put them down as 2 of my top role models. They were just real people with me. They let me, Mr. Johnson would let me borrow his brand new Grand Am. I mean, it was a beautiful car. And the first day he put the keys in my hand and said, "Now, don't you tear my car up." He showed me that he had confidence in me. As a high school student, he let me drive his car. So just the way I could see them as men, I wanted to be like them. And I'm not just like them, but I try to be. They're 2 special people.
How'd you meet Evelyn?
That's a good one right there. She ain't gonna like this one, but I gotta tell it. Rockford newspaper was good covering sports, but I got this idea, I'm gonna start my own newspaper, and I'm gonna have a reporter in every school. I called it Inside the Nick 10 at that time. And I had a reporter in every high school. I had a reporter out here at Harlem too. And they would go in, they would cover the arts and sciences and all the sports, and then they would give me all their work, and I'd put it all in the newspaper. I had somebody doing all my work for me, putting it down. I was going out getting money to pay for it. And I could only get enough money to pay to produce the paper. never to put anything in my pocket. So I was trying to raise money. One day I go to this Alberto's beauty salon. Evelyn was in beauty school there. She's going to be a beautician. Well, she knew who I was because I was her king in high school. She was in 9th grade. I didn't even know who she was. And I was a senior, and I was homecoming king. So she came up to me, and she knew who I was. She said, let me help you sell some of those tickets. And I said, this is great. I don't even know this girl. She's going to sell these tickets. So I gave her a stack of tickets to sell for me. So about a week later, I called, you sell those pancake tickets? No. She didn't sell a one. She didn't even buy one herself. And boy, I was upset, but you know, what could I do? She just didn't do it. She called me later and apologized for not putting the effort in to push the pancake fundraiser. And I appreciated that. So I offered to take her out. And the rest is history. We've been together almost ever since, you know. And I realized some people just not salesmen. Some people just can't get out there, and that's how she's not that type of person, but she wanted to help me. And that's how I met her a long time ago.
Yo, what's up? I'ma kick it with the lines, y'all know. Yo, Slim, can I kick it like this? Here we go. Well, it's time to make that change. People of the world today are fading. All of us have our ups and downs. You better think about it or you won't be around. What we need is a little bit of love.
Hello, I'm Tommy Meeks, and I would like to welcome you to another edition of It's Time for a Change.
The long story is this. So the African Americans and Hispanics shared one channel, and we had all these other channels up and down the dial. So I came back to Rockford one day, and I was really upset because it made no sense why a company like Cablevision at the time could, in Freeport, 22 miles from here, could have BET on 24 hours a day, Univision on 24 hours a day, and then we had to share here in Rockford. So I went down and I talked to the young lady who ran Cablevision. And I guess this is when I really started getting into social justice. I said, why do we have to share a channel? And her name was Casey McWilliams. We sat there and we talked, just like me and you are talking, for about 3 hours about everything, race relations, wars, everything. And at the end she said, how would you like your own TV show? And I said, how much will it cost me? She said, nothing. I said, how much will I get paid? She said, nothing. I said, okay, I'll do it. And I felt at that point when I had my own TV show, I had to speak out for what I thought was an injustice. I knew that something wasn't right in our community because African Americans, and almost even to this day, we had no businesses. I mean, we had little small mom and pop stuff, but we weren't involved in anything that really made this country function. And when I started my TV show, that's the one goal that I had in mind, that my show should lead to us being able to do everything every other ethnic group is doing here in this city and in this county.
I worked for FedEx for many years. In Shannon, Illinois, there was a guy who used to sponsor my Juneteenth celebration every year. He was a pretty wealthy owner of a big trucking company. Mm-hmm. And every time he saw me, hey, Tommy, how you doing? Hey, how you doing? I won't say his name. And then one of his coworkers came to me that worked for him, said, why do you talk to him? He hates black people. And I looked at him, I said, what? And he said, I'm telling you, he is a racist. So that really bothered me, but then I thought about it. I said, Larry speaks to me every time he sees me. Mm-hmm. He sponsors my event, and he treats me decent. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna treat Larry the way he treats me. Mm-hmm. We stayed friends for years. He never talked anything racial to me. That guy who said he was a racist probably got mad whenever he saw us laughing and talking about whatever, Chicago Bears or something. But I found that that was my best way of working with people, that had problems is that I treat them the way they treat me. If Larry treated me bad, I probably would totally ignored him, came in, bye, I'm out the door, but he treated me decent.
I tell this story because it's the truth. And, you know, you can hide from the truth if you want to. You know, I was a college football player, semi-pro football player. I got involved in drugs in my early 80s. So they wanted to get me out of Rockford just to talk to me. And my aunt and uncle told me about Juneteenth. I had never heard of this June 19th. I never heard of Juneteenth. When I came back to Rockford, I was still addicted to drugs in the late 80s. I was working for FedEx. And FedEx, they never drug tested anybody. And then they came out with a policy and they said, no more drugs if you're gonna work for FedEx. So no more drugs, I just quit. I stopped, I went to an outpatient rehab. But Juneteenth never left the back of my mind, it was always there. It gave me a snapshot of what my ancestors went through. If you think about it, African American people were enslaved in this country for 246 years. That's a lot of decades, a lot of death and no growth for 246 years. And then they gave us our freedom, but that was all we got, was our freedom. And then they gave us 10 years of what they call the Reconstruction. We did so good after the Reconstruction because our people wanted to learn. There's politicians, you can look it up, they said the former slaves were the most learned people after slavery because the poor white man hadn't tried to learn, nobody was stopping him. But those slaves were reading and trying to learn everything. When I started learning all that stuff about the Reconstruction and then all the years of the discrimination and Jim Crow, and I started looking at myself, I started looking at my parents, I said, we really got screwed over because we never had a chance to live productive lives like other Americans had. And so when I told my family I was going, I told my wife, Evelyn, I told her I'm gonna start promoting this thing called Juneteenth. June what? Nobody around here. Some people knew about it, but they just never did anything. My mother knew about it. She grew up with it. My grandfather never let any of his children work for anybody on June 19th in Arkansas. But when my mother moved to Rockford, Illinois, she never told us anything. So by me finding it out from my aunt and uncle, it just did something to me. And one day when I put all the drugs down, I started thinking, I need to promote that because this could help, not just me, could help a lot of people just to think about who we are and what our ancestors had went through. And I've been promoting Juneteenth now, like I said, for 32 years. The biggest honor was to have the governor invite me down to Springfield. And he mentioned my name in the speech and I got like applause and all that. And it meant a lot because I had been promoting it for over 30 years at that time. And that was last year he invited me down, our 31st year. And then the day after that, the president named Juneteenth a national holiday. So in 2 days, everything I've been working on came full circle. And I think Juneteenth is something good for America. It's when America really became, at least on paper, they said they were gonna live up to what they claimed they were all about. All men are equal when we weren't. So supposedly, 1865 was a chance for us to get our freedom and live like real Americans. It took all the way to the 1960s before it actually happened. But Juneteenth is flourishing now and it's helping people take a look at our history. Some people don't want to look at history. It hurts some people. But I believe history is good. It can help you look back so you don't make the same mistakes again. And I think that's what Juneteenth offers America, is that 1865, June 19th, was when America really said, all people can be real Americans. And I stand by that. And that's why I promote Juneteenth. Until the Lord takes me away, probably. Or until somebody takes it from me, you know.
I tell you, that word right there, potential. We as a country, in my mind, we have more potential to be. I mean, we always run around talking about, well, we're the greatest, America is number one, you know, all that. I don't buy it all the time because I've never really been to another country. But I really believe that we are potentially the greatest possible country that could ever exist. But we haven't taken advantage of our potential. We put up barriers, we use racism, we use classism a lot. There's things that we do to each other that I think is holding us back from being the impact country that I think we could be.
The year was 2010. I went to the county. I went to what they call the Resource Intervention Center. And I told her I wanted to mentor to African American males only. Because at that time, our young men were gangbanging, a lot of violence. And I wanted to get the guys on probation and try to set them straight, try to teach them some history. The most difficult part is for young people that don't realize their own potential. That word potential is so special, and when young people don't understand it, you know, they get caught up. They could take advantage of opportunities today that my ancestors could only dream of. And that's what hurts me, and that's what I think the biggest problem is with some of our younger people. Probably even in this school, you probably see it. Guys getting in trouble, want to fight all the time, when almost everybody here, I'm sure, is here trying to help somebody so that when they leave this place, they're prepared for, you know, college or a trade or a skill or something, you know. One of the guys, he's a young white guy that went to Harlem here 2 weeks ago, Saturday night, committed suicide. He was one of my clients that I had got a good job for him. He wasn't in my mentoring program, but he was on probation. So they send people to me on probation. And I got the call that he had committed suicide. And that's something that I really want to try to work on in the future, is helping people that feel that they want to take themselves out. Because the young man, his name was Cecil, I won't say his last name. I had no idea Cecil was hurting like he was hurting. And I don't know the reason why he committed suicide, I really don't. But I do know he committed suicide, and that's enough for me. If we continue to help people and not hurt people, we go a long way in making life better for everybody. One other thing I will add, it was a top official in the Harlem School District, and I'll just say that she's not here now, but she did tell me Winnebago County per capita has more biracial children than any other county in Illinois. To me, that describes that people are falling in love with each other regardless of race, and they're having children, and they're not arguing about race. We're moving forward. And I think that's what America was supposed to be all along, but it didn't get started like that. But that's what's going to make our country great, when we accept each other as human beings and learn to live and love and forgive one another. That's what's going to make our country great in the future. And that's what could make our cities great. So I got high hopes for this area. And I was just talking to Sunset Funeral Home today. I got my plot and stuff paid for and all that down there. My parents are down the street. My son and daughter down the street. I'm here. That's what my plan is. My wife, we're gonna be here. As long as they keep us buried here, or as long as we're alive, that's the plan, you know. A lot of things you had on that paper are things that I feel in my heart, and it's to being able to communicate with other people and understand that that Republican over there is just as human as I am. If he thinks that what he's right about and I'm over here as the liberal person that I am, we got to have mutual respect for each other's beliefs. And once we can start respecting each other, regardless who's right, that's what's going to help us as human beings, to learn to respect another person's beliefs instead of hating. And I got a lot of friends that disagree with me totally. We still friends. And then that's where I think life should be, you know.
Je te laisserai tes mots en dessous de ta porte, en dessous de la mur qui chante, tout près de la place où tes pieds passent, cachés dans les trous dans ton divan. Et quand tu es seul